let's get into the real estate news.
Let's do it.
So the top real estate headline for today. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how real estate agents get paid, because there has been, if you've been paying attention or maybe not been paying attention, there's actually been a lawsuit that was filed against the National Association of Realtors because sellers, especially during the pandemic, they felt like they were paying too much in real estate commissions. Which, hey, you're the consumer, you have the right to negotiate how much you pay your professionals, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a big, huge lawsuit. If you haven't heard about it, maybe a lot of your realtor people aren't talking about it, but we're going to talk about it because it's happening.
Let's talk about it.
So just a quick little synopsis about real estate commissions, how they came into existence. Back in 1963, before 1963, I believe, I wasn't born then, obviously, real estate agents used to get paid. We all get paid by the seller, right? Or in the transaction, we get a commission. And so we receive a percentage of the commission of the sale price of the house. So for example, if the house is $400,000, let's say your commission is 3%, then you get $12,000. Okay. Easy math. Now before 1963, your buyer's agent, let's say you wanted to buy a house. Your agent never really worked for you. There was no such thing as buyer agency. Agency means I work for you or whoever I work for. If I work for the seller, then that's seller agency, meaning I am exclusive to that seller. I can't say certain things to you as a buyer and vice versa about the seller or about the buyer. I can't, as a seller's agent, I cannot say, yeah, the seller's about to go into foreclosure, so you need to hurry up and put an offer in. I can't do that. It's against my license. Mm-hmm. Vice versa. If I work for a buyer, I can't tell the seller, hey, yeah, my buyer got $2 million that they want to spend, so he can go up a little bit higher. We can't do that. It's unethical as real estate agents. All right, now let's fast forward. Where did buyer agency come from? Well, before 1963, there was no buyer agency. So if you called me and said, hey, Dan, hey, Marcus, I want to buy a house, right? We would say, okay, sweet. Now, as of 2023 and after 1963, I'm your agent as a buyer. And I represent you as a buyer, and I have a fiduciary responsibility. I'll type that down in the bottom. A fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest as my client, as a buyer's agent. Now, before 1963, there were no buyer's agents. So before 1963, if you called me and said, hey, Dan, I want to buy a house, I say, okay, let's go and look at 123 Main Street. As a licensed agent before 1963, as an agent, I technically worked for the seller, even though you hired me as your agent.
Oh.
Yeah. And people were like, wait a minute. So buyer agency came into existence as a result of some class action stuff where buyers were basically saying, if I'm hiring you as an agent, why are you working on the behalf of the seller? You're supposed to be working on my behalf, right? Yeah. And so that's where buyer agency agreements came into effect. After 1963, the buyer agent worked for you, the buyer, and the seller agent worked for the seller. And there's two agents in the transaction, and they both basically, I won't say work against each other, but they both work to represent their client's best interest. Mm-hmm. All right, that's a long story. What's happening now? Well, now it's going back the other way, right? Because most sellers are saying, well, here's the lawsuit. The lawsuit that's coming up against National Association of Realtors. I don't have it in front of me, but I read it. But basically what they're saying is we feel like we pay too much for commissions. We feel like all the realtors have been colluding with each other to make a standard commission, which there isn't technically no standard commission. And they got a case. They basically bring in a case against the National Association of Realtors and a couple specific brokerages as well. And they're basically saying, y'all overcharge us for commission. We shouldn't have to pay the buyer's agent commission as well. If I'm selling my house, why am I paying a buyer's agent who's representing a buyer? That buyer should pay their agent, and I should pay my agent. And that's what the lawsuit is about. All right.
That makes sense, though.
It
does make sense. I don't know. I mean,
you ain't never lied. I can't hate on it, and I'm in the business. This is why I'm trying to tell y'all, Real Estate Wire Squad. We ain't got no. I'm just telling you straight up. I don't disagree with that. Makes sense to me. Now, here's the part that I want to explain to you as a listener. It don't matter who pays the commission, because whoever's bringing the money to the table is paying the commission. For example, If you're a buyer and you're paying $400,000 for a house, where's the money coming from?
If you're a buyer,
Yeah, if you're a buyer and you're buying a house for $400,000, where's that money coming from?
coming from you,
Right, and who's giving you the money?
wherever you get it from, like
The bank.
Well, you talking about the loan,
Right? The loan.
Oh, okay. I'm
right.
thinking.
But you're ultimately right. It's coming from the buyer.
Down payment and closing costs.
No, you're correct. The money for the entire purchase is coming from the buyer. So technically, the buyer is paying the commission because you're a seller and you're saying, "Well, my house is worth $400,000. You got maybe a $300,000 mortgage left on it, and you keep the rest, right? The $100,000 that's your equity or that's your profit once you sell it, right? And then you say, okay, that's my $100,000. Then you got to pay a commission on that because nothing's for free unless you try to do for sale by owner or something like that, which you can do that, right? You can do your own taxes. You can do your own dentistry. You can do your own, you can represent yourself as a lawyer, right? You have the right in America to represent yourself in any transaction, right? But the benefit of working with a real estate agent is that we have experience and we have transactional history. Same thing working with a lawyer. They have history, they have experience, and they've studied the craft. So most people just hire a lawyer because you don't want to represent yourself in court. Most people hire a dentist because you don't want to have to pull out your own teeth. Most people hire a real estate agent because they don't want to have to deal with all the paperwork, the transactional inexperience that they may have had. Most people only sell a house once or twice in their lifetime, right? And so most people hire a real estate agent because we get it done faster, more efficiently, and we save you time, energy, and money. That's why you hire a real estate agent. And now they're coming after those commissions, right? And so they're basically saying, well, we feel like we shouldn't be paying a buyer's agent and a listing agent. And so how does that affect you as a buyer? How does that affect lending on the overall? And that's kind of what bringing you up to speed. That's what we're talking about on the real estate topic right now.
I can't get mad at them bringing this out. I wonder who the collective of people might be that are bringing this about.
It's a bunch of people.
Yeah, like you talking about like hundreds or thousands.
It's like
of
a class action lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors. I was
wondering. And then how they. I mean, what justifies too much, right? Because, but on the lending side. Some of y'all might not agree with this if y'all watching it as a realtor, but on the lending side, we get as a lender we get blamed. We have to carry a lot of responsibility. Like I was talking about, all the conversations I've had just getting here today with a bunch of title companies, and the title companies are responsible for putting the fees together, make sure it's legally sound or whatever. But I'm involved in that conversation, and if something goes wrong with the title work or something goes wrong on that side of things, everybody's looking at me as to how come you didn't XYZ, right? Realtors, you understand what I'm saying?
Of course.
Right? And then it's like, okay, but the realtors, y'all, I'm not gonna say it. Y'all get involved.
Speak your truth.
But at the same time, there's a lot of times where it's like y'all write the contract and then y'all get out the way, and then
say they.
They. So it's like how much is too much when it talks
you mean
about
commission?
Yeah.
So great question.
Because right now the typical amount of commission split.
That's the problem. It ain't typical.
Well, okay.
You just got sued. That's the issue. The language.
I ain't got nothing for y'all to come after though. But
it's all in an irrevocable trust.
You would hear all about like 6%, right? Like 6% split between buyer and seller.
That's the lawsuit.
Right, that's the too much.
Because there is no now I have to pull up each state's buyer agency agreements and listing agreements, but there is no standard commission. There is no typical real estate commission.
Which is strange because the least regulated side of the real estate transaction is the realtor side.
We're heavily regulated, bro.
Nowhere near what we are.
Oh, well, sure, because y'all are directly dealing with money.
Right.
Y'all are definitely that's understandable.
Y'all are dealing with the collateral though, right?
Yeah.
And y'all and a lot of realtors
but y'all hey, look, we're both regulated and I get it. And there may be more regulation coming. The issue is that standard.
Can I get the 3% or
what do you mean?
Did y'all get?
Look,
all the title company,
real estate the typical there is no typical real estate commission. Real estate commissions in this area, I've seen between 4 and 7%.
I've never seen a 7% sales commission on
I've
residential.
Seen it. Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Residential
it's
or
what you
commercial?
negotiate. There is no standard, and that's what the lawsuit is about.
Okay.
Is you guys as real estate agents, what they're saying is that we have colluded to create the illusion that there is a fixed interest rate.
Ah,
I mean, a fixed commission.
yeah.
And there is no fixed commission.
I get it.
And that is what we at the Real Estate Wire are here telling you.
And
there is no fixed commission.
So on my side, there's certain things like there's regulations where when you look at the fees compared, and the fees can be a certain percentage of the loan amount. You can't it'll give you hard stops and systems sometimes. Like, no, you cannot charge that. Like, because it's regulated, Reg Z and all these. It's like you cannot.
We can charge however much the seller wants to charge us, wants to give us. That's the bottom line. So
I understand the lawsuit then.
Yeah, there's a lawsuit, and here's the deal. Y'all watching right now and say, "Oh, that's not fair, man. Y'all make too much money." Okay, well then sell it yourself. Like, straight up, you could sell it yourself.
Yeah,
you could hate us, but the reality is we provide an invaluable service, and there is no United States economy without real estate. And I'll say it again. There is no United States economy without real estate. Every single time this country goes into a recession, guess who bails this country out?
It brings it back.
Real estate. We bring this country out of recession every single time. The government throws us into recession, and we bail everybody out again. So y'all can, and I know most of y'all listening actually do love real estate. You have a love for real estate. You have a passion for real estate. You're very interested in understanding more, whether it's just investing, increasing your portfolio. But we want to bring this information to you because, the real estate agent commission can be on the chopping block. It's not going to go to zero. But as a buyer now, here's where it affects you. Mm-hmm. As a buyer, you may now have to start paying your buyer agent commission out of your own pocket. So you need to be prepared for that. Now, I'm sure most lenders are probably just going to start rolling that in because they do it anyway. But if this lawsuit goes through, which it looks like it may end up costing you more to buy a house.
I'm interested in seeing. I mean, this federal it's got to go to a federal level because it's got to hit every state.
Well, there's only certain states are getting sued because only certain states have they're coming after the languaging in the buyer agency agreement specifically. They're not really going after the listing agreement because the listing agreement is pretty solid. I know in the DMV it is. It's, look, this is what we charge. How much do you want to pay the buyer's agent? So
what you're saying is that there very well could be the listing side of it being a sound agreement, right? Mm-hmm. Of we're going to charge you 3%, or let's say 3%, right? But on the buyer side, what they're saying is, as a buyer, there's no set amount. So let's file this lawsuit, get a set amount set. And what if they put that to 1.5%, right? Then you, as a buyer's agent, become one of the.
They can't do 1.5. They can't tell you what the fixed commission is. They can only say that as a seller, you're not obligated to pay the buyer's agent commission. That's
right,
it.
Okay.
As a seller, you could pay your listing agent. That's what we were talking about in the beginning about agency.
So basically, so then it becomes two split negotiations.
Yep. As a buyer's agent, you're going to negotiate with your client. Look, this is how much I charge. Anything that the listing agent decides to pay me on the MLS, you just got to make up the difference.
But the money, because the money's still going to come from the seller side.
Money's still going to come from the buyer side, bro.
Who brings
the money? That was right in the beginning, right? Who brings the money to the table? The buyer.
So the seller is giving the seller's agent their money out of their transaction. Yep. The buyer is saying, look, if I need $10,000 for just title company and lender fees, then I also need to bring another $5,000 for the buyer agent representing me.
Correct.
Pay them.
Correct.
Ooh, boy,
they do that anyway. They just don't see. We're just slicing up the cake differently.
I think that's something that we're gonna have to dive into next time because we got more to get to.
Right.
But I feel like yo, that's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough on lenders and buyers.
We'll keep y'all posted for sure.
Yeah.
Let's get into the coach's corner. What you got for us, Coach?
Man, there is a refinance rebound that we're looking at. Not so much because there's the rates are so great, but here's the reality. Barry Habib, who is one of the leading voices in all of finances,